Okay, what is going on, guys? Welcome to another video here on the AB Fitness channel. So today what we're going to be going over is just a few topics such as exercise order, concurrent training, which means training cardio along with resistance training, as well as what exercises you should do to maximize your chest gains. So let's start it off with the order of the exercise that you're doing. So resistance training guidelines prescribe placing large muscles and multi-joint exercises earlier on in the workout rather than later. Why, you ask? Well, it's because the recommendations are based on the premise that the performance of multi-joint exercises is impaired when the smaller secondary muscles are pre-fatigued. So what does this mean? This means that basically, if let's say I did a chest fly, my chest would be exhausted before I got onto the bench. So as we can see here, I'm doing 70 kilos. So if I would have done, a chest fly before that or another chest movement, I wouldn't have had as much strength and power going into the bench press. So that kind of, puts it into perspective. There's also several studies done on this in quantifying the effects of exercise order muscle hypertrophy. So now that we've established what you should do first, for example, when you're doing back, you should do the deadlift or the bent over row prior to doing things like the lat pull down or the dumbbell bent over row. So moving on to concurrent training. Okay, what is concurrent training? So concurrent training is when aerobic exercise is often paired along with resistance exercise. That's what concurrent training means, and it is used for accelerating fat loss and enhancing sport performance. Now, although there's been a positive effect on concurrent training and weight management, there's evidence that suggests that the addition of aerobic exercise to a normal scheduled resistance training plan will compromise muscle growth. Negative hypertrophic effects from concurrent training, they're mainly attributed to a phenomenon known as chronic interference. So what is chronic interference? Well, it's a hypothesis almost that trained muscles cannot simultaneously adapt optimally, morphologically or metabolically to both strength and aerobic training. So this would be like, for example, your muscles cannot adapt to doing endurance training, which is, for example, cardio, as well as strength training, one after the other. They don't like it. So what does this mean? This means that you probably shouldn't do cardio along with resistance training just because it may counteract the effects at some point or another, which obviously, you don't want because you want to obviously get gains and stuff. See, now on the other hand, some studies show that combining aerobic and resistance training impedes anabolic signaling, which means increases it, but have failed to note any negative consequences. There is even evidence to the point that concurrent training heightens mTOR and P70S26K to a greater extent than resistance training alone. So mTOR is basically a gene and it links with other proteins to serve as a core component of two distinct protein complexes. These regulate different cellular processes. See, on the other hand, P70S6K is a ribosomal protein S6 kinase beta 1. Now, what does that mean? We will never know. It is basically just an enzyme. Specifically, it's a protein kinase in humans. So the kinase activity of this protein, of the P70S26K, leads to an increased protein synthesis within muscle cells. So once again, these studies don't actually show any negative effects. However, The time course of evaluation in the current literature was generally limited to several hours post-exercise, which then means it doesn't provide a complete kind of like snapshot per se of the adaptive response, which can last up to 24 hours post-exercise, as well as these findings that the studies have reported are specific acute bouts of exercise, whereas any interference would seemingly manifest over a period of weeks, or it could even take up to months. Okay, so for the last part of this video, I want to talk about what you can do in order to increase your chest growth and develop your chest further than you already have. So for this, we're going to be talking about some exercises. Obviously, the pectoralis major is the biggest part of your chest, and that is maximally activated on what PTs and sports specialists call the transverse plane. Okay, so this is mainly using horizontal adduction movements such as the bench press, the decline bench press, the incline bench press, all that kind of stuff, and single joint exercises, which would be the chest fly and that kind of fun stuff. So pressing movements allow for use of heavier loads, obviously. For example, the bench press would allow you to use greater loads than a chest fly would. However, the chest fly would provide greater isolation of the target muscle, in this case the pectoralis major, and it would exclude the assisters, which would be the front delt. Now, in terms of maximizing hypertrophy, I would probably recommend using both of these. However, what I can say is that pectorals will benefit from the use of a variety of training angles. So for example, the sternal head is best targeted during supine exercises, which would be the flat bench, and decline, which obviously is the decline exercise, the decline bench press, sorry. Whereas the clavicular head is more aligned with gravitational forces, where torso is inclined. Where do I hold it? So what I normally do is, I normally go put the crease here and there. So when I pull it here, it's give or take in front of my body.
Okay.
Try it. Give it a shot. Huh? Go on, mate. It's 55. So exercises such as the incline bench press would maximally affect this muscle group. Do you realise that is going to turn into a
It's fucking not. No, it's fucking not.
That's turning into a fucking meme.
I'll fucking kill you, mate.
That's a fucking...
Come on, I'm a genius. The glasses are going to be on.
So obviously I had to add that in because it was kind of funny, too funny not to. But going back to what we were talking about, a narrow grip would normally give you greater activation of the clavicular head, which is probably to the fact that the narrow grip brings the elbows closer to the torso, which makes the exercise more on a sagittal plane, sort of flexion movement. So basically, what are we trying to take away from this? Right, so I'm trying to take away the fact that, in order to maximize your results, ideally you want to have 2 compound movements in there. I personally have 2. My 2 are, one is a chest, which is the bench press, as you saw. The other one is the shoulder press. And then after that, I just add in any exercise that I can fit. However, I would definitely recommend using the bench press and the incline bench press if you have a specific chest day. However, this is the end of the video. Next video, I'm thinking of doing something along the lines of how to structure your own program. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Of course, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.